This is not a popular idea these days. If you want your family to be multi-generational, guys, these are going to sound counterintuitive, but these are the kinds of actions that naturally lead to a multi-generational family.
Hi, welcome to Jeremy Pryor's podcast, or what I like to call Jeremy Pryor Unfiltered. I'm his daughter and producer, Kelsey Gall, and we are excited to bring you seasons of content all the way from Tolkien to theology, from business to family. If you like to contemplate deep philosophical ideas across a wide range of topics, you've come to the right place. Make sure you give us a follow so you don't miss out on future episodes.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the podcast. I'm here with my beautiful wife, April. We are going to talk about family, multi-generational. What a shock. April, what are you doing today? You changed you had an apron on all day. You were looking very homesteady.
Yes, my oldest daughter and I, we got big boxes of tomatoes from the Amish farmer that we get our milk and eggs from. And so we called my mom and we said, okay, talk us through how to can some tomatoes. So she talked us through it and we spent the morning canning tomatoes. So that was the first for me. I've never done that before. We did it all growing up, but of course, I was running off playing and being told to come back and being a snotty teenager during those years. So I wasn't really paying attention.
That's right. It's amazing we get a second shot at this and a third shot and a fourth.
Oh, so thankful for that. Yes.
That's so cool that your mom was able to help you figure out how to can stuff.
Yeah. It's probably been like 20 or 25 years since she did it, but she was like, okay, first you're going to need this and you're going to do this. And then I always did it this way. And then you add this and you put this down and then turn this upside down and use this kind of towel. And
Yeah.
I had some of her supplies that she was getting rid of them a while ago. And
Didn't Kelsey say something about not wanting to YouTube?
she was getting really excited about doing the canning, and she was like, "It's taking everything within me to not look it up on YouTube. I know I could just look it up on YouTube, but we need to call grandma." So we had to wait until the daytime because we're getting excited about it in the evening, and she's like, "We'll call her tomorrow and ask her."
Yeah. It's like in the day and age where every boy has learned how to tie a tie from YouTube, like we don't realize how much we're taking away from the intergenerational transfer
Yeah.
because it's just all one click away. And so if you have it, take advantage of it. Like think of something that your parents or aunts or somebody upstream knows how to do and just carve out that realm and say, I'm not going to Google that. I'm not going to chat GPT that or whatever.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
You probably have a mom or a grandma who can do like pie crust or something like that. That's like maybe a dying art or something like that, that you could just for the sake of trying to make that connection. I think a lot of times we struggle with what to connect over. And if you can just find something that maybe you don't totally value right now, like I could buy a pie crust or I don't like pie or something,
Yeah.
but you're like just saying, I want to be able to connect with you and you love making pie crusts. Like, let's do this together. So getting creative with those kinds of things is really great.
Yes. And speaking of multi-generational connections, so I recently wrote an article that has kind of gotten a lot of feedback that I wanted to tease out here a little bit. It's just called 10 Surprising Practices of Successful Multi-Generational Families. We did a whole video on this for the Family Teams Accelerator. And there's a few things in here that are a little bit new that I think we're still understanding how to steward or that we just haven't talked about a lot publicly that I think might be helpful for people. So we're not going to drill into all 10 of these, but there's a couple of these I think we're going to hit on this podcast today. I'm going to read these 10 though, just so you guys can see this. If you want to check this out, it's on my Substack. Just kind of check out Jeremy Pryor Substack and you can find the whole list. And I describe a few things about each one. So the 10 things are this. Number one, view age 18 as a starting, not a finishing line. Number two, help your kids have kids early and often. Number three, foster what we call a father's council. Number four, host an annual family summit. Number five, celebrate talent through family showcases, which we're going to get into. Number six, safeguard daughters from harm. We're going to talk about that one too. Create a family bank. Number seven. Number eight, forge mastery contracts with our children, which we did a whole podcast on, I think over a family team. So you guys can check that out. Number nine, uphold the father as a revered patriarch. And number 10, cherish the mother as the family's heart. Okay. So we're going to just hit a couple of these that I think are interesting and I think would be useful. I kind of wanted to start with this number five, celebrate talent through family showcases. I love this idea. We sort of like slowly evolved our way into this one. So what I put in the little snippet is recognizing and nurturing individual talent is vital for family success. Talent shows provide a platform for members to display their skills, receive constructive feedback, and gain support to maximize their potential. So most people, when you have a recital or some kind of display of talent, it's not something that the family itself is putting on. It's usually put on by, the piano instructor or the drama teacher or like whatever. And so this is another one of those areas that I think we just sort of inadvertently have given over to the teacher, the coach, which is great. I think those are great, but I also feel like we could do this as a family. So April, maybe you can tease out what are some ways that we've tried to showcase family talent, and then let's get into why that matters.
Yeah, I think it kind of started years and years ago. On my side of the family, we have quite a large family. There are 24 grandchildren. My parents have 24 grandchildren. So whenever we would get together, my parents would want to have a time where the kids could get up and do a quick talent show. And this is when the kids are pretty little. So it's things like saying their ABCs or showing a string trick or how they could do sign language, a song or something like that. Or then as they got a little bit older, it was like they were doing skits that were so funny and telling jokes and doing magic tricks, things like that. So it would just be a portion of our time hanging out together as a family, but it gave a little bit of intentionality to it. And it gave us time to see each person as an individual. When you value large families, I think one of the fears is, at least for my heart, is like, "Oh, no, I'm gonna not pay attention to somebody, or I'm not gonna know somebody as well, or I wanna know their little quirks or the way they talk or, you know, the thing that they've been practicing." So, I think that kinda got in our blood, and then it kind of morphed into, as our kids were getting older, this idea of where can we issue a challenge to you that has like a deadline to it, has a bit of a performance to it. We're not going to go overboard on the performance side, but just a little bit of, when you are perhaps homeschooling or, doing certain things where you're not buying into all the systems that are out there, then sometimes you lose out on the things that those systems can offer, like
Right.
you're saying with like the music recital, things like that. So we've kind of come up with different things to let kids showcase the things they've been working on. Sometimes it's displaying their art around our house. I think it kind of culminated this past winter. We did a craft show. And that was really cool. I was really surprised at how much crafting came out of the woodwork because it was mostly our children, but then also a couple cousins, a friend or two, and a fiance. So displaying everything from their artwork to like, I have a niece who crochets these little animals. And
Yes, those sold really well.
yes, those sold
Yeah,
very well.
those all sold.
And
Yeah,
yeah,
several of them, you think about spending your whole year making all these different crafts, and then just right before Christmas, have a big show, and it's like kinda kills, like, several birds. You've got
yeah,
showcase for your family's art and crafts. You also get to have a little side income. I think that's pretty fun.
yeah.
Yeah.
We're not super on the musically talented side. I always wish we were, and I'm hoping maybe that some of the grandkids will be. We'll see. But could definitely see it going that route as well with like a little bit of a musical performance or
I'll show. I think there should be just more of this. I think part of what we're saying is, you guys, like, there's just too much talent in families that we're waiting for the teacher, the coach, the other people to actually showcase those things. Those should matter a lot to the family. Why not say, look, guys, once a year we're going to do a family play. Once a year we're going to do a family, house show. Once a year we're going to do a family art show. Once a year, whatever it is, right? And then you've got these talent shows where your kids are really little, where they can see, especially if it's annual and regular, like, they can start to prepare, like, a year in advance. "Oh my gosh, I can't wait till next year, let's do this." And so you have these annual traditions where talent is being highlighted, celebrated, but in the family, or the extended family, or it could be involve friends or people from church. But why not make it a house-based thing instead of always waiting for this to happen in some other venue? Like, so
yeah.
I'm a big fan of this one.
Yeah. And I think it gives you a little bit of purpose to your evenings because I think, we can get really into like consumerism in the evenings. It's like, oh, let's just watch a show or, oh, we're tired. Let's whatever. As your kids get a little bit older, and they're not going to bed at like at 7:30 or 8 p.m. They're like staying up a little bit longer. This helps give a little bit of potential structure to an evening. Like, hey guys, let's let's practice our song, or let's think about what craft you want to work on next for the craft show this fall, or something like that. It kind of gives a little bit of structure to those things.
Yep. Huge. Okay. Let's talk about this number 6, which was safeguard daughters from harm. Daughters are cherished treasures in multi-generational families. That's language, by the way, that comes right out of the Psalms. It's amazing where it talks about sons and daughters. It talks about daughters as this perfectly carved pillar within our houses. Men in the family rigorously vet suitors, uphold marital fidelity, protecting daughters from predators and the cultural fallout of societal shifts like the sexual revolution. So our sons and daughters are uniquely vulnerable in different ways. And we've highlighted some ways in which I think sons are vulnerable, but I think really, like, I've been just thinking a lot about how challenging it is to raise daughters today and how early this can get into their system, like 13, 14, 15 years old. If you haven't begun to craft and help your daughter form an identity that is more family based, then she could inadvertently develop an identity that is victim based. This is really the kind of cultural, the latest trend, I would say, for how the enemy comes after our daughters. I wrote a little like kind of playbook for how I see the culture doing this. Step one is our daughters are told, "Hey, life's really hard and that is unfair and full of pain." And that's true, right? So you're like, "Whoa, why is this happening?" So our daughters are going to go through whatever it's a heartbreak or some kind of challenge to their lives. It's like, oh, they like have to deal with like, our monthly cycle or just like there can be a narrative put over like it's so hard for women, the patriarchy or whatever. So they
Right.
hear this like getting drilled into them, in schools or online or wherever. And then the second thing is that the enemy will then point out that the single cause to all this suffering is men or the patriarchy. And so now you have a target for all the ire you feel about how unfair life is. Instead of saying, guys, this happened at the fall, and men and women were equally culpable for how this happened. That's why Genesis 3 is so important. We have to make sure our kids are story formed. They are formed by the narratives founded in Genesis 1, 2, and 3. God created the world well, and then there was a fall, and the fall was something that both the man and the women both equally contributed to. And so when you see the brokenness in the world, there is such a temptation to sort of play the role of the victim, become morally superior. And then, of course, if you can weaponize that against men in general, then the third thing is that we then say, okay, life's hard. It's men's fault. Now form an entire identity around trying to fight that, fight the patriarchy. And so this identity that has been kind of presented by feminists, it allows our daughters to immediately be a part of this amazing tribe of other women who are fighting all this injustice because it's just rooted in this basic lie. And then they are basically sent out as members of the army to perpetuate the cycle and bring other young girls into this sort of a deception. And all of this makes it so much less likely that they will find a husband, become a part of a dynamic team with their husband, love their children, love their sons. It's really hard if you're being weaponized against men for political reasons or for some other reason. But we have to, I'm saying this because a lot of our friends, I think, have been surprised by how easy it is and how young their daughters can be. These messages can infiltrate their daughters, and they're like, "What do we do once it's like completely?" That's the story that's formed them, right? And this is why, like, saturating your family in the gospel is so important because the gospel makes sense of these things. Yes, it's going to be hard, but yeah, what does that start for you, April? Because this is like a serious problem.
It is a serious problem, and I agree with everything you're saying. There's a verse we were just talking about. Can you help me remember where it is? About lovers of self.
Oh, 2 Timothy 3.
Okay, 2 Timothy 3, where he's saying in that day there will be lovers of self, and he's describing this whole, and I just feel like that one phrase alone is so powerful because it's the way that is looking for women is the the way that we can just focus everything around us. I'm a lover of self, and so I can just talk about me and my victimhood, and I'm sure it's because I'm a woman, and I'm sure a man's the one who perpetrated it, and we're being fed that lie all around, and so it's our job as parents to from the young years to make sure that our kids are understanding the story, the origin story. Origin stories are fascinating. And if you understand them, then you can kind of like understand where you get to now and like, okay, that makes a lot of sense if this is a fallen world and the God we serve created it beautifully and then we are the ones who messed it up. As women, we're deceived, and Adam disobeyed. And that just has had implications ever since. And so it's our job to press into what God's design is and to try to live out the blessing that he gave us after he made us, to try to be fruitful, multiply, fill, subdue, and rule within this fallen world. What does that look like? And so that is a story that you want to live out of, but that you want to live from. It gives you purpose to your days. It helps you understand when there are hard times. The New Testament scriptures give us all kinds of encouragements about how we will face trials and we will face temptations and we will face hard times and tribulations. But Jesus is with us through all of it. He equips us to know how to deal with these things when they come. And as Christians, we live a victorious life. We are not endless victims. If we go through something, there is hope on the other side of it. There's a way to work through. God has given us all these tools. Jesus came and turned everything upside down and gave us all these tools to be able to fight, to combat these lies from the enemy.
We can do it, but be aware there is a snake in the garden,
Yes.
right? Your whatever that walled garden is you've created for your daughter, and you're like, oh, I'm sure nothing could ever get in here. There is a slithering serpent that's out to deceive her. And if you're not in constant relationship with her and also framing, like helping her see this larger gospel saturated story, man, these other narratives are going to get a hold of her. Like, and so we have to be aware that that there are this snake is coming. It's discouraging our sons and deceiving our daughters. And so there has to be a proactive stance that we have towards the enemy in this area.
We have to acknowledge that. We do not want our daughters to be deceived. Like they are prone to deception. And so we need to keep our eye out for that. Where, in what ways are they being deceived?
Yes. In the same way, the origin story suggests that men struggle with passivity, right? That men are
Great.
being discouraged, disillusioned, whatever's going on, and they're going to get into this passive posture where the snake comes into the garden, even though Adam was commanded to guard and cultivate the garden. The snake came in and really got a hold of his wife. And this sort of plays out in every household, in every family, in every marriage, in every father-daughter relationship. And so mother-daughter relationship, we have to be really aware of these dynamics. This is why we spend tons of time saturating our worldview from the Genesis 1, 2, and 3 perspective. Those 3 chapters are the lens through which you see kind of April, you were describing the origin story. It's so powerful, right? It makes, when you get to the gospel, everything makes sense. But if you just start with like, I love myself, Jesus loves me, and that's my understanding of the gospel, you don't really have a creation, fall, redemption, recreation narrative in your soul that those first 2 chapters are missing, or for your kids, they're missing, then it's going to be really hard for them to have a gospel sort of shaped identity. And so we have to be aware of the first part of the story. All right, last one I wanted to point out today is at the very end of this, I was writing about the patriarch and matriarch of the family. Uphold the father as revered patriarch. This is not a popular idea these days. And if you want your family to be multi-generational, guys, these are going to sound counterintuitive, but a respected father sets a noble example for his sons to emulate. The family honors his leadership, fostering a culture of respect, high standards where disrespect is not tolerated, and the patriarch models integrity. So one of the things that like you have to uphold as a patriarch, if you want to get this respect, and this is the thing that basically men want, they need to be respected. This is why Paul commands wives to respect your husbands, because he is like got this empty bucket called like, does anybody respect me? And that's why when your wife rolls her eyes or anything, it's just like the world ends, because like he operates from a sense that there is like, I am being respected in my house. And from that posture, if he believes in the Lord, if he's gospel, if he wants to lead his family well, if you fill that bucket, he becomes a noble man, right? And the family needs to be led by noble men. And cherish the mother as the family's heart. This is a really beautiful sort of like balancing act between these things. The matriarch, having born and raised the family, is revered and protected for life. There's a sense in which she's at the heart of the family for life. Her security and honor inspires her daughters to emulate her, creating a legacy of strength and grace at the heart of the family. And part of what I'm trying to describe here is sons and daughters are watching the patriarch and matriarch to decide if this is a story I want to live into.
Yeah.
And what's happening is that they look at the father or grandfather and like, I wouldn't want to live that life. Like nobody respects that guy. Nobody treasures that woman. Look how she was abandoned by my dad or by my grandfather or whatever. This is really the root of so much of the corruption. And when you get into the church, even if you come from a really broken home, there's got to be a place somewhere where you see these roles played out. And this is the reason why when Paul says, like, do not get divorced because you represent the connection between Christ and the church. He's saying, look, marriage is on display to demonstrate to the world the goodness of God and the story that we're living inside of. And in the same way, the patriarch and matriarchal story is really showing the sons and daughters. This is something that as I continue in life, I grow and respect the mother. She grows in being cherished and adored by the family. And this creates a culture that inspires the sons and daughters. And it's part of what our culture has done that's so pernicious is it will take grandfathers and, honored grandfathers and grandmothers and say, you really should like bend around the grandchildren from an honor and, deference perspective. You don't realize what that actually does to the family when you basically say, like, we're going to honor the youngest members of the family the most is it gives them nothing to aspire to. It doesn't create this sense of which, whoa, my grandfather at the head of the table, like you start to see even that 7-year-old boy sees that grandfather and says, wow, like that could be, I want that to be me someday. And then inspires a whole life of integrity because he wants to be noble because he can see that's what actually created that. Or a mother, like watch, an 8-year-old granddaughter who looks at her grandmother and says, wow, like, look how she's cherished by her family. Look at this amazing life she has at this stage in her life. Like, this is what inspires, children to become the kinds of mothers and fathers that we want to see that create the multi-generational family. That's what this whole essay is really designed to try to tease out is that there are practices that create multi-generational family. And one of them is this honoring of the eldest members of the family.
Yeah, I think it's very biblical. And I know because we've seen abuses of this, it's hard for people to kind of picture or imagine what a healthy version of this is. But I just really encourage people to press into that. Okay, try to set aside the negatives that or the ways you've seen this mishandled and try to like press into what do we know about God? What do we know about his father heart? What is he like? How does he see us children? What does he value? What does he think of us? And it's clear throughout scripture that we're very important to him, that he knit us together in our mother's womb, that he has plans for us and that he has a new name for us in the future. And like he knows us so well. And so thinking of the godlike aspects of a father, even if you don't have a good example, then you can try to become this for your family. And then that promotes in the downstream generations this, love and respect for the position
Right.
of father. And it allows that father or patriarch to lead, to cast a vision and to lead his family into health, taking risks that are going to have benefits on the other side. And then it allows the mother, the matriarch, to come alongside him and to do the hard work of adding team members to the family, whether that's through birth or through adoption, and all the work of like keeping the home fires burning and all of that that she is honored through and into her older years when she starts to be more vulnerable, weaker, losing her, abilities to keep up with the way that maybe she has in the past, but being able to still have that place where she's not brushed aside, but is still honored and cherished as someone to look out for and take care of.
Yeah. So we're trying to tease out, these are the kinds of actions that naturally lead to a multi-generational family. If that's what you're interested in. That's what we're here to do is like help you guys see these things are really important. Showcasing, the talents of the family. It's so helpful. Protecting the daughters during these very vulnerable stages, honoring patriarchs and matriarchs, basic stuff that's so important, very underrated today and oftentimes not even seen or understood. So April, thanks so much for jumping on here today. And you guys, we wish the best for you and your multi-generational family.
Yes.
Thank you for listening to Jeremy Pryor's podcast. Make sure you hit that follow button so you don't miss out on any future content. Follow Jeremy on Twitter and Instagram, as well as his Substack blog, all linked in the description. See you next time.